This tutorial was brought to you thanks to the supporters on the screen. Check out TAPgiles.com to find more Dreams resources, donate to support my work, or engage my services to get private instruction or help on a project one-on-one. So let's go back to animating the playback speed. So we don't have any of these on, we're just animating, and it's like emitting a fleck down here at the start, and it's following the path to the end, or vice versa if you've got negative playback speed. Now if you move it around, the relative positions are going to stay the same according to where the actual painting object is. And if you turn on pulse, the pulse is similar to one of these, where the fleck stays in the same position, it just animates differently. So pulse means, let's just make it more dense. So you can see that at the start, at the head, it kind of appears, and then it will slowly become smaller and smaller until it disappears again. And that's all the pulse does. And then the trail length just means how long does it take to get to the point where it disappears. So if you make it shorter, each fleck is appearing and then shrinking really fast. So you could use this for stuff like bubbles, but and if you want it to be just a single thing, a single fleck, you can turn it way down. But then you get this kind of flashing effect, which isn't necessarily what you want it to happen. So instead what you can do is turn off pulse, and each of the flecks is being shown as normal, but turn this fleck density down until you're left with only one fleck, and now that smoothly animates along that stroke line. So we've talked about how this kind of animation emits a fleck here, and then it uses like the relative position of the actual painting object, so you can move it around and it will still animate as normal, as if it was part of that one stroke. If you turn on jet trail, it won't do that. So it'll still emit a fleck and it will follow along to the end of the stroke, but when you move it, they continue to move from wherever they started instead of where the painting now is. When you're in edit mode, it's trying to show you like where you're actually holding the object, and you can barely see kind of what's actually happening behind. But if I use a action recorder and move it around and then stop recording, then I can play that, and you can see that new flecks are being added based on where the painting now is, but then they're doing their own thing and following their stroke line, and that's what jet trail does. So it's really good for stuff like smoke or whatever. So when a fleck gets to the end and disappears, then it wants to be emitted again, and that's how it kind of times it out. So when it's slow, it's kind of more random and dispersed. If you make it faster, then you can kind of spot how the strokes are meant to be, sort of thing. So it looks more like a trail and less like random stuff happening. The problem is when you start, it always still looks like a full stroke because they have to get to the end before they're re-emitted in the new positions. So what you might want to do when it first animates is we'll use another action recorder. We'll make them really short so that you can't see the full length of them. And then we'll record into this action recorder it getting longer. And now let's see how that looks. Yeah, so we can like make that slower. So it gives more of the impression, you never see the full stroke right at the beginning. So that can help the effect. If you want like a fire to start up, you probably don't want it to look perfect with all the strokes. Another way of combating that is making the fleck density really small, so you only get individual flecks. But then you use duplicates. So if I just use that one, or that one, and make the really small, lots of duplicates, and we can affect the time offset, which means all of those duplicates and all the strokes are offset by this amount, by like a random amount. If it's a 0, then they'll all be moving at the same time. So if I put that to 0, so there's only one fleck, they start at the start at the same point in time because there's no time offset. But if there was time offset, now they're starting at different points. which can further kind of obfuscate the fact that they're just lines. So these flecks start from the beginning and then move up. If we put something into restart animation, we have a switch and then plug that in, then when we send it a signal, it's going to restart the animations from the start again. If it's a fire, so now it's kind of got those strokes. If I show you the full strokes, you'll see what I mean. So here you can see that that's what the actual strokes look like, and as I add more copies, it's just putting those around like a cylinder type of shape. And we can also mess with that a bit more with inside sphere and give it a little bit of spread so that they're not perfectly in line. You can also give it scale jitter so that each of the copies has a slightly different scale from its center. So now if I play and I reduce that way down to 1, it's very hard to tell that it's got these strokes. It just looks like lots of these things being emitted. And we can turn the speed up like that. And now we've got jet trail. We can, if we now combine that with this effect, we can just like move it around a bit and stuff. And that further jitters where it's going to make those new parts. And if you actually use the moves, you can do this a lot better. First you've got to drop the moves on the floor. And then you've got to pick up the moves, and then you've got to turn them on again because they've fallen asleep. If I now get an action recorder, then I can rotate it and move it around and scale it with this circle on the secondary move controller. And John Beach does this a lot better. But now it's got this kind of, it flares out when it has a bigger scale. And it's like moving around and stuff like that. So you can get a really nice fire effect just from a few strokes. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to get 5 hours of tutorials early for $3. Here's a preview of what you can learn if you choose to become a supporter.